At this time, I'd like to introduce and welcome your Master Brokers Forum Chair, Eliana Abea.
Hi everyone, welcome. We made this happen. It wasn't easy. At 3 o'clock this afternoon, we were freaking out. I can tell you. Ask Sarah. Thank you. So welcome. The podium. Welcome, Master Brokers, to another incredible event. But this one is prettier than most of them. Why? You're in my city, the city of Coral Gables, City Beautiful. So I want to thank everyone that made this possible tonight. Let's begin by giving a big Master Broker thank you to MG Developer, Alirio Torrealba, I don't know if he's around, Juan Sotheby's, and I see Mai somewhere over there, and everyone at the village, all the staff at the village at Coral Gables for hosting. I'm gonna move this chair, it's starting to bother me. For hosting us this evening. So I don't need to say that this is a beautiful venue, because it is. And all I can say that if anyone was here in 2017, you may recall we were hosted for a holiday event in this same venue. But our landscape has changed dramatically. Look to my left. This is one gorgeous building. And the city of Coral Gables it has evolved, and this is different. It's all different. So very shortly, we will hear from an incredible panel of experts and of what's happening with our market. And there's a lot happening with our market. But first, please join me in thanking all of my fellow board members. Please stand up and be recognized. They do a lot. They spend a lot of time. They dedicate a lot of their free time, or no free time, but they're definitely not paid for this. That's all I can say. And of course, most of all, our executive director, Jason Raymond. So I don't know if you know, but this year marks the 30th anniversary of our organization. And we're going to hold a big celebration of this milestone later this year. Some of you may remember that when this organization was started, we had a local bank that supported this group. And we've come full circle, because now we have a beautiful partnership with City National Bank, represented tonight by James Campanella and Rich Campanella. I call them the Campanella brothers, back there. So if you see them around, please say hello, introduce yourself, and do yourselves a favor, try them out. They have an incredible menu of loan services, and they really think out of the box. So if you have difficult cases, I assure you, they're going to solve your problems. So, by a show of hands, who remembers the very first Master Brokers event? Anyone? So I personally remember my first. It was in 2005. I was a young girl. I still am, right? No? Jasper, why are you laughing? And all I can tell you is that you kind of feel intimidated being surrounded by all these incredible top producers, that at that time I was just getting into the business, basically. Well, no, I have been in the business, but I wasn't a top producer. So 2005, and you can't help but feel a little bit intimidated. So tonight I want to recognize all the new members, and I know some of them are here. As I call your name, please stand up to be recognized. Harry Baxter, Victoria Donisova Hall, Louis Reese, Linda Reese, Paola Garcia Carrillo, Deborah Golan, Eyal Golan, Tetrin Hijazi. I hope I didn't mess that up. Michelle Kaufman, Juan Salas, Nancy Sanabria, and Claudia Villar. Oh, welcome all new members. We're so happy to see you here. And finally, let's learn more. We're going to learn more about this beautiful project. And I think we're going to have somebody from our team here, the village at Coral Gables. Please welcome Natalia Rojas and Adolfo Núñez del Prado. They changed the name.
Well, thank you all for being here in a chilly night. We want to thank you all for choosing the village in Coral Gables to host the Master Forum. And we know your time is precious, so we're just going to give you a little glimpse of the project. There are three main points we want to mention. The first point is basically we have the most unique development in the area of downtown Coral Gables. We have 24 condos, which we call flats. We have 16 townhouses, 4 lofts, and 4 villas with private pools. They range from 1,700 square feet to 3,400 square feet, and the pricing goes from 2 million to 4.5. So I'm here with Adolfo, and he's gonna say more.
Thank you, Natalia. Good evening, everyone. So, like Natalia was saying, what makes this project unique in downtown Coral Gables is the variety of the 4 types of residences that we have. Like she was mentioned, we have condos, townhouses, loft, and villas. Also, another very important point is the location. We are 2 blocks north from where the youth center is, on a residential area, but walking distance to all the entertainment that downtown Coral Gables have to offer. 5 minutes to Miracle Mile, close to the Billmore Hotel, less than 4 miles from Miami International Airport. So that's a very important point about the village as well. And the team that is behind the village of Coral Gables. MG Developer, they already have a track record in the city. This is their 8th project in the city. They already have completed and delivered 7 projects. And once again, they are partnering with international award-winning architect, Maria de la Guardia from DLGV Architects to create the village at Coral Gables. So those 3 points make this incredible project unique. Also, I want to talk about the timeline of the project. We are scheduled to break ground this summer of 2023, and the estimated delivery will be end of 2025. Deposit structure, it's 20% now, and then 10% in about 3 months, and the remaining balance of 60% at closing. Very important, commissions. We pay 5% commission, 33%, so 1/3 will be paid with 20% deposit, another 33% will be paid with 40% deposit, and the remaining balance at closing. So please let my colleague Natalia, Patsy and Annie that are not here today, or me, let us know if you would like to have another presentation. I know that I've talked with you guys and also Natalia at our beautiful showroom. So please let us know, and also put the word out there about this beautiful project, please. You can share it on your social media. We are doing actually a raffle. We're gonna do a raffle, so everyone that can post or share our project, we are doing dinner for 2 at Suka here in Ponce de Leon Boulevard.
I'm sure you all know the restaurant.
And we are also, the other raffle is for a personalized ID card, business card. So please share us and tag us on Instagram or Facebook, MG Developer, the village at Coral Gables, so that way we can see who has more interactions, and then we can announce the winner.
And one Sotheby's developments, of course.
International as well. Thank you very much, and please.
Thank you. Enjoy your night. Thank you.
We're very lucky to have another amazing project in the city of Coral Gables to show our clients. And now, let's move on to this important panel discussion, forecasting what's to come with the Miami residential real estate market, which is always changing and exciting. It's my pleasure to introduce our moderator for today. Where is he? A fellow Master Brokers Board member, Andres Acion, with over 20, please applaud. I'm going to be doing a lot of talking today. With over 20 years of experience, Andres has been a prominent figure in South Florida real estate market. Prior to opening his brokerage, Andres led all development sales at Fortune International Group. During his tenure, he sold over 40 developments, exceeding $10 billion in sales. And now Andres is also running, and this is my plug. Anybody here in the city of Coral Gables? I'm sorry, Miami Beach? Yes. Okay, good. So Andres is now running to be the next City of Miami Beach Commissioner. Elections are in November, I'm just saying that. So please vote for my friend Andres. Please join me in welcoming our dear friend Andres Acion.
Hello, hello. Wow, that light. It's nice and chilly, right? It's a nice Miami night. I get to wear a scarf. I love it here. So let's bring up panelists. Can you all come up and join me up here so I can introduce you all while you're up here? Is everybody here already? The three panelists, if you could come up. Join me up here, please. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Where are you like? I'm going to be standing. Or maybe sitting. All right, so let me start with Anna Bozovich. She's the founder and owner of Analytics Miami. For the past 7 years, she has been publishing long-term trends, analyzing South Florida real estate market. In the next 2 weeks, she'll be launching MiamiDealsSheet.com, which will be powered by Analytics Miami. She'll be vetting and recommending new construction projects, as well as generating a monthly list of best residential deals in Miami. Anna is a member of the London-based geopolitical think tank PS21, and she is a governor of Miami's Association of Realtors. Her real estate reports are outcome agnostic and are published with the intent of bringing truth and clarity to the market. They are entirely data-driven and strive to place local market action within the contents of macro trends. In her reports, Anna charts the whole market cycle and emphasizes supply and demand fundamentals across markets. Anna studied math and physics at Columbia University, and her reports draw upon her abilities to see past the noise and recognize patterns in data. She also has a great article that came out in the Miami Herald last month that you could check out. I also want to plug in another little random fun fact that Anna's little sport is MMA.
Oh, does this work? Hi. So I train jiu-jitsu about 2 hours a day with professional MMA fighters, MMA masters. I do
There
the
you
grappling
go.
portion of their training, UFC guys and so forth.
No,
so
but
it's my,
so don't mess with Anna is all I'm trying to say. Here,
I'm still gonna
Don't try not to disagree with her. She might get upset. She might.
it's my place of meditation.
Yeah.
I come in peace.
There you go. Next, we're pleased to welcome Anthony Graciano, CEO of Integra Realty Resources, one of the nation's largest real estate advisory and consulting firms, and a recognized expert in real estate markets and feasibility analysis. He was named Miami's Realtor 2017 Analyst of the Year and is frequent speaker in the industry events throughout the United States, returning tonight for his third Master Broker appearance. Feel like that's like the Tonight Show, like third time at the Tonight Show. It's awesome. Finally, we want to welcome John Paraisi, Executive Vice President, Chief Strategy Officer of City National Bank. John joined City National. That's right. 2.5 years ago from CIT Bank in New York. Guess what? The guy moved from New York to Miami. Wow. What a new thing. I've never even heard of that. Where he mostly recently served as Managing Director, Chief Strategy Officer of Growth from 2016 to 2019. While at CIT, John also oversaw for a 7-year period their $22 billion consumer finance business, which included residential mortgages and student loans. At City National, John oversees the strategic direction of the bank, its analytics, marketing, digital transformation, and new products partnerships, as well as BCI Capital and their specialty lending national business. How's the banking world going? Smooth. We're going to get into that, people. We're going to get into that. But I'm glad you're all here. A round of applause for our 3 panelists. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you. So, first question. We had a poll of 100 master brokers, and they showed some mixed feelings about the Miami single-family home pricing and the market and the remainder of 2023. 42% of us think prices are likely to rise gradually. 37% of us think prices will stay flat. 19% think that they will fall gradually. What are your predictions on the local single-family home pricing? Who wants to take a stab at this first?
Something really fast. So if we could pull up that first slide, that was the median pricing chart for that. Okay, so median pricing has been trending higher through last year. I believe we're in a topping phase. If you can look at the charts there, we're still about 8%. I think it was 8% year over year. The topping phase makes sense to me. The surge that happened initially was a post-cataclysmic event surge. No surge lasts forever. It cannot. That's just, it was an event happened. It was like, poured gasoline on the fire. People surged over, and we had that spike. Why do I think that this level here is gonna? I think that we're gonna plateau as we are. I think we could see visually around this post-COVID normal, and I think this will continue to sort of level off because inventory remains so low. This is my little cheat sheet that I had here. If we subdivide inventory just crudely below $1 million and above $1 million, below $1 million, tri-county, single-family home inventory is down something like 60% versus pre-COVID. And then above $1 million, it's not much better. It's down like, I had it here. It's down single-family 49%. So inventory is very low. At the lower end of the market where people are using traditional financing, we would assume, they're kind of stuck because median pricing went up so much that they're going to get less house for their money, plus a loan that costs more, and so there's a bit of a gridlock at the lower end of the market. And of course, we have this influx of people coming here. So inventory is quite low. I believe we see a topping pattern in the graph. So my prediction is that the single-family home market, tri-county, is going to level off, not just in Miami-Dade.
So you're going with the middle.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with down. And I'm going to go with the minority. Sorry to say it. The problem, obviously, with median pricing is when you have a lot of transactions, the median's going to tend to be higher, and as fewer transactions come down, the median in any sample is going to get lower. On a price per square foot basis, one of the things I think that's absolutely holding up the market is construction costs at the moment. Construction costs are still elevated, which is putting buyers in a position where they have to look at the relative cost of what they're buying used and say, well, am I going to buy new? And there's not a lot of inventory, as you mentioned, but inventory has been building since August quite a bit, particularly in the sub $1.5 million. And I think we're starting to see more inventory than we've seen in the past, which is going to have an impact on pricing. Combine that with just general economic fear, I think you're going to have to start seeing some reductions in pricing. And I've started to talk to realtors that have told me they're actually negotiating deals again, which is pretty cool beyond just bid ask. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I would say I hope you're right that it's plateauing.
Inventory is still so low. It's barely bumped up. It's super low. It's down over 50% below $1 million.
Good. John, you want to throw?
So I think can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
So I think everyone here wants to hear the prices are going to go up, right? Because everyone wants to sell a higher rate. But I tend to agree with Anna. I think it's probably more in the middle. We are starting to see a little bit of relief on the inventory. But if you're in Coral Gables, good luck finding inventory, right? South Miami, Pinecrest, any quality property is going to demand 1,000 a square foot, if not more, right now. When I moved here from New York, and I'm part of the problem, I guess, although let's just say I didn't take advantage of it right away. I rented and I was paying, through the nose on it. I should have bought immediately. Cost me about $300 a square foot, not buying right away. But we think that supply-demand imbalance is still there. I mean, there's so much demand still. On the banking side, we see people coming down here in the droves. We help them land here, so we're part of the, we're exacerbating the problem. When people want to move, we try to help them move. And then, of course, we want to bank them. Right? That's why Rich is here, and he's looking for all those guys. But I think we see the market. We're still big in balance. People continue to move here. We see that in the news every day, and the build out is just not keeping up, to the demand.
Correct. And what's also shocking is how the floor has risen on the market. So I contributed to this series of articles in the Herald where we looked at median rents across all the zip codes in Miami-Dade and Broward counties. And of the 72 zip codes in Miami-Dade that have population, that aren't just postcode zip codes, in 2021, it was something like 40 of them had median rents under $2,000 a month. In 2022, it was 4. And that's a little bit shocking. And 2 of those were like at 1950. They're right there at the border. So that is the floor of the market.
And what's interesting is, before we mentioned that there's some relief in the under $1 million, right? Meaning, how many people here know of listings under $1 million anywhere around this zip code?
No, they don't exist.
It doesn't exist, right? So there's $1 million properties somewhere. I'm not sure where, but I guess if you want to live, really out west,
there's a whole
or
bunch
if you
of
want to live,
one-bedrooms available. But I'll tell you that I think that a lot of people are playing chicken in the sense that buyers are trying to wait for sellers to drop prices, and sellers want to retain the higher number. And people are just playing a game of wait and see, and that's why you're seeing more days on the market in a lot of properties. I have had several buyers who have sort of gone to the sidelines just waiting to see what's going on overall with the market, even with the banking market that we're going through right now with everything else. So it does play a role. And also talking about new inventory and insurance situations, we also have a lot of people are looking at the cost of insurance if they're financing, what those numbers look like, and houses that are, whether they're above floodplain or below floodplain, especially in Miami Beach, it becomes a little bit of an issue. What do you guys think about the condo market now that you spoke about the single family market? Same question on the condo side.
I would say that we're very much seeing the same pattern. I think that slide has the chart for the condo market as well. It's really the same pattern. The market is, I'm sorry. My hand? Oh, this is better. Okay. So the market is leveling off in terms of median pricing, and the same pattern holds in terms of a reduction in inventory, where the lower we go in price, the more the inventory has disappeared, and the higher we go in price, it's less also, but less so. There's the same pattern actually that's holding across the board here in South Florida. The higher up you go in price, the more all cash the market is also. And one segment, one sort of data point that I found really fascinating, which I think is a real indicator of what the appetites are of our incoming wealth and talent migration, is second slide, I think it is. On this, the second slide, yeah. Previous? Yes. Is it the one that shows the price per square foot? Yes. Okay. So the segment of our market, the only segment last year that actually clocked in a record year, despite an overall reduction in sales volume across the board, was the past $2,000 square foot sales segment. And this was previously did not exist. I mean, basically didn't exist in South Florida. It was uber luxury. And what we have right now is we have more sales, either single family or condo, past that metric per month than we used to have in whole calendar years prior to 2019, and it hit a record last year. And that to me is highly analogous to companies like Rolls-Royce posting record years for their bespoke sales of their cars. That to me reflects highly the appetites, again, of the wealth and talent migration that's coming in, and it's also a sign of how our market is bifurcating and reflecting America's wealth polarization and the fact that we're on the receiving end of that wealth migration. So I anticipate that this segment, and also when you drill down by price per square foot like this, you're actually isolating down for new inventory, because that tends to be expensive per square foot. So I think this is the indicator of what people want who are coming here, and it also shows how our market is sort of bifurcated. But then again, just like the single family home market, the lower you go in price, the less inventory there is.
And people love to buy the new, shiny home, which is a great thing. Guys, you want to add some feedback to this?
Look, I think she's right again. I mean, it's 2 out of 2. I think Anna's right. We're very much in sync.
You're intimidated.
I'm not going to fight her. I'm just going to agree with everything. It's what my wife tells me to do.
John, if I'm honest.
A little bit. And just a tiny bit. And look, my wife's trained me well. Just always agree. Everything goes well.
Yes, dear.
Right? So, exactly. Don't fight it. It's just play dead. So, look, I think in the next 12 months, we see prices maybe relatively flat, in the condo side. But I think as you get beyond the 12 months, I think we see, normal increases, 3 to 5%. I think the market down here continues to be vibrant. Demand's high. As you think about construction and what that looks like, it's still lagging, right? These guys are building, not for 2 years, People are dying to come here. They want it tomorrow morning. So I think there's still a lot of that that's on the come.
You want to hit that, or you want me to go to the second?
I mean, if it's a speed
No,
round,
it's okay.
you know, I'm happy to weigh in.
Listen, I like to see somebody not agree with the other two people. So if
Well,
wanna-
this is what Anna and I talked about originally. We said we're going to bring our boxing gloves, and it'll be like point counterpoint. Here's the mythical the thing that we're under right now. All the wealthy people in the world are moving to Miami, and that sounds great. But they're moving from somewhere with a transfer cost, and I think we have to look at what's happened in the last 6 months in the economy and acknowledge that wealthy people are not stupid. Okay, they take advantage of opportunities and they buy when they can buy at the right price. Number one. Number two, they don't have access to cheap capital anymore. All of the pullback in the technology market in terms of new funding, this collapse of SVB, which I understand we'll probably talk about, that is very wealthy people that were making investments at very low cost of capital. The cost of capital, the cost of risk has gone up. Yes, people do want to live here. They come here, it's a beautiful place, they see culture, they see this lifestyle that we have down here. Everyone wants to be here, I don't disagree. But they still have to sell their house in New York. And the house in New York isn't worth today what it was 6 months ago. So the reality is that we talk about wealthy people, but they have an exit cost and an entry cost, and that's becoming equalized in some ways, and they may not be able to get out. We've also seen a lot of retirees moving down. We've seen older folks making retirement decisions, and we know that when bad economic times happen, people delay that. So what we've experienced over the last 2 or 3 years has been phenomenal. But as Anna said, it can't last forever, and I will tell you, there are some major differences happening right now in the economy, and I just feel like that has to have an impact, even in the condo market. Now that said, we've historically produced in South Florida 100,000 units between 79 and 89, 100,000 units between 89 and 99. If you look at our decades past, we were putting about 100,000 new units in the pipeline every 10 years. And over the last 10, we did less than 50,000. And now, right now, if you read the Miami ISG report, there's less than 20,000 under construction. So I do think we have less land, and it has to get more expensive because there's less land to go around. So that's part of what's benchmarking our pricing up. And we're not producing as much of it as we historically did. But still, at the same time, we've had almost 100% price increase in the last 2 years. How do you continue to go up? I just don't see. I mean, look, I want to tell you that it's true, and I hope that it is true. I hope I'm wrong. But I also want to say, let's use common sense. I just don't see how it can continue to rise at that rate in the coming year, given all of the headwinds in the economy.
I hear you, and obviously there's people who are worried with layoffs coming around, with the rates that are happening, and so therefore it puts people in a wait and see mode. Just in general, a lot of people in a wait and see mode. Obviously, there's people who have the buying power and don't mind and feel that that's a great time to negotiate, and we're obviously seeing a lot of people buying, but it does put other people in a wait and see mode. You touched on the topic of velocity of new construction coming into play right now. Do you feel that pipeline of new construction is at the right pace for us right now with the number of people coming in? Do you think we're overbuilding? Do you think that we're underbuilding? What is your view on that?
I think that it's over the last 3 or 4 months, it's becoming increasingly difficult for developers to pencil out their projects, which is going to have a natural consequence of slowing construction. Because construction costs haven't come down. Because all the people that build the big stuff have been very busy, and they don't have to get competitive yet. The cost of capital has gone up. That's made the feasibility even worse. They bought land at the top of the market. That's made it worse. So when you combine these factors, buying land at the top of the market, increased financing costs, increased construction costs, if the developers have the money to get out of the ground, they want to, because they're going to be the only game in town 2 years from now. But a lot of them are not able to get capitalized to get out of the ground right now. So I think we will tend to underproduce inventory in the next 2 years, which may be okay. I think we're going to underproduce against the demand that's there. But I think when the demand that's there is visible and has changed, then I think we'll be glad that we underproduced a little bit, not doing the underwork.
And those stronger developers will be able to get the financing that others might not.
Well, they're the only ones that are going to be able to get it now. That's
Exactly.
what I think. That's what SVP's happening.
Yeah, I think quality of builder is important right in this market more than ever. I think the ones that were new to it and started building in the last couple of years maybe are building a little bit of a reputation that they can execute on the projects and then move them. So I think there's a little bit of that. I've met a couple that were in that camp. They built 3 or 4 things in over an 18-month span, and they were able to get workers lined up and people to be able to execute, which is coming from New York, by the way, it's not easy to get people to do things here. People say I'll show up at 9, they show up at 9 3 weeks later. So, but okay, you adjust.
It is Monday.
Yeah, but I will say that projects that were able to be delivered right now in the short term, I think there was like 7 development projects in this immediate area. Right now, when we look out further, there's some 15,000 units being built. 20-something projects, 25 to 30 projects on a multifamily side being built, which will bring in a lot of units. So I think the demand will continue to be there in the high end areas, because why not? And the market in Miami, I think, has shifted. I think it's different in the market from 2008. I think people are building a little bit smarter. I think the down payments that you're hearing earlier have shifted the burden to the customer who's making those down payments and the banks away from the builder, and that's shifted because when those things weren't finished, and the money wasn't there, who's going to finish those projects? And the banks aren't putting the money up. Right now, the customer's going to finance 40% of that, allowing you to break ground. Then the question is, how much do you pre-sell, right? Because then you got rising costs of materials. So wait a minute, I was pre-selling, I felt good, but now my costs are going up, and we haven't even broken ground yet. So
not to mention
there's a lot happening.
Not to mention the cost of that financing, right? Because a lot of developers weren't thinking that they were going to have a raise of 1 or 2 points.
Yeah, rates will be low forever.
Numbers,
yes.
right? So it does throw a little bit of a wrench on their numbers, right? So Champagne Towers, that collapse. I don't think that when that originally happened, so many people would have thought that the trickle effect of that building dropping was going to cause such a financial situation with so many buildings across Miami-Dade County, right? And so there's a lot of costs implemented with that situation, and a lot of people are now in a predicament where they're doing their 40-year certifications, which are now becoming 25-year certifications, and they're realizing that the cost of that for many people is way above that, in some situations, what they even paid for their condos, and can't afford it. And so buildings are taking out financing, which, by the way, little plug here, City National does amazing financing for condo associations that need financing for these type of certifications.
It's very true.
And I know because I spoke to them myself regarding one of the buildings, Murano Portofino, where I live. It's going through a very hefty special assessment right now, which is going to be probably about $45 million, which on the average is about $200,000 and $300,000 per unit owner. So it's a hefty price depending across the board, depending whether a condo is a $300,000 condo, or it's a $3 million condo, or it's a $5 million condo. So what are the effects that you're seeing that? Because also in many situations when people are going to go and buy these condos, a lot of banks don't want to finance them if they're going through these type of special assessments. Although if City National is financing them, then City National will finance a buy.
Look, I will say this, our homeowner association business has probably tripled in the last year as far as opportunities, right? And these projects, the one thing that we're noticing on them, it just takes longer to deploy the capital, right? Because there's less engineers, they're not readily available, the projects are backlogged, materials and everything else that needs to happen, you got boards, everything moves slowly, okay? The homeowner association model, is just not one that has low friction. And so they have to come together. They have to come to grips with the fact that they're going to have to pay $300,000 a unit. That's a lot of scarves. I wish I brought mine. Okay, I wish I brought mine. I'm a little envious right now. But I think the opportunity to get it financed is there. We're trying to lead the way in that market. We got really great people to do it. And just like you, we're trying to fill the market where needed. And but I think it's just taking longer to put that capital to work. It doesn't take us long to underwrite it, but it takes longer to get it actually deployed.
So I put together a PowerPoint presentation with just some of the stats that we're talking about because I like to speak from a perspective of credibility, right? So there is a PowerPoint that reflects somewhere, and if anybody wants it, you can request it from Jason or otherwise, and I'm sure he'll send it to you. Here's a startling fact about condominium 40-year recertifications, or I should just say 40-year recertifications because they apply to all buildings, right? The last slide here has the stats, but I'm just going to give you the basics. About 50% of the condo inventory in Miami-Dade County is eligible for its 40-year recertification. The question is, how many of them are done? And if you call the county, that's not an easy answer to get, which in and of itself is a problem. We have a regulatory regime that is not keeping track of their own progress in this way. And now the state legislature has mandated that all condominiums within 3 miles of the coast throughout the state of Florida have to get this type of recertification. And they certified Miami-Dades as saying, if you do Miami-Dades, that'll count for the state. At least we got that. But if there weren't enough engineers before this past March when they passed this, what are we going to do going forward? So here's what I would suggest. There is going to be a massive wave of backlogs in this segment because there are approximately, to my estimate, I use the American Housing Survey data to estimate the total number of units that would be eligible for 40-year recert before this new law, before within the 3 miles of the coast. That number is in the order of magnitude of 175,000 units, about 5,500 projects. Remember, this applies to every project over 10 units. It's no easier to review an application on a 10-unit project than on a 20 or 50 or 100, right? It's the same mechanical, electrical audit. Everybody needs an engineer, whether you have 10 units or 150 units. So do the math. There just aren't enough. And the fact that the state is mandating that this all be completed by 2024 is complete regulatory incompetence. It's impossible. We don't have enough people or engineers, and by the way, the county doesn't have nearly enough employees, which means there's going to be a huge backlog. I am a consultant for City National. I talk to their board frequently. I talked to them about this post Champlain Towers, but when they instituted, and I said, you have to provide the funding backstop. City National Bank was the hero of COVID because they came forward with probably one of the best throughputs on PPP money in the country.
Also true.
And I told them, I said, you're the heroes of Florida right now because of the PPP situation. Look into this termination because this is going to be a big problem, and recognize this. If you lend an association money to do capital improvements, you are the priority lien. So what's your risk? And if you're the bank that's lending the money on the priority lien to renovate the building, what's your risk if you lend on the condos and have to take them back? You guys are the money for the renovations. So they got into the game, and I'm glad that it's working out. I'm glad the business has tripled, but that's part of what City National, I think, is doing to lead the way. It's part of what they're doing as a community bank that's impactful. But I'm telling you as brokers, get to your lobbyists, talk to the politicians that you know, and ask them how many employees work to process 40-year state certifications, and ask them if they have a list. And I'll give $100 to anybody that can give me a list of the Miami-Dade condos that haven't gotten their 40-year recert.
And they're working that on the county because I've actually asked, and it's been a little bit of a mess. But I'll tell you that for the pre-construction market, this scenario is actually a good scenario because when these renovations start happening in these buildings, it takes longer to do these renovations than to build a whole entire building. And then you have people who are in the building who don't want to live through the jackhammering of 2 years of doing concrete restorations in the building, and then they're like, well, we'd rather move into a new building, which is great for the pre-construction market again, and I've seen it happen in several buildings already. In Murano, there's 7 people who have already moved because they don't want to deal with the 2 years coming ahead. So it's a bad thing for some of these situations, but it's also a good thing for the pre-construction market, I think, as well. Any other thoughts from you guys? So how do you deal with the perception that South Florida right now is really only for the rich? This is a question I'm asked.
I'm asked this question too. Is this still on?
That's right.
So, yeah.
No, we cut it off when you asked.
Oh, right. No, I get asked this question too, and it's a difficult one to answer because we have all these data points showing that the bottom of the market is rising dramatically with that disappearance of median rents below $2,000, disappearance of actually an inventory below $200,000, lack of inventory below $1 million. That's very real. And then we have all this data coming in showing that we're the largest recipient of inbound intrastate wealth migration. That we had, the state of Florida had almost 22,000 people relocating who file over $200,000 in income with the IRS, and Texas was number 2 with just 4,000. So we're by and large the destination for wealth right now, and I think that's just begun. So that's a really tough question. I think we're going to keep seeing headlines that we're on the receiving end of wealth because our feeder jurisdictions, as I like to call them, are just going to keep increasing their hostility to capital because at this point they can't help themselves. They what is it? Something just 1% of taxpayers in New York City and California account for over 40% of their revenue base. And you lose 10% of those people, you've decimated your tax base. And that feeds a negative momentum cycle that people don't appreciate. And momentum is very real and it builds over time. And as that negative momentum cycle builds, there are politicians whose time frames are not aligned with the general prosperity of their jurisdiction. Politicians just want to get reelected. And so what happens is they're going to keep pandering to the ever-growing percentage of their population that does not pay in. And they're going to keep increasing their hostilities towards capital, thus kicking it out, and we're going to keep receiving it. So I think that trend has just begun. So I don't really have an answer for that. I think we're going to keep seeing headlines that we're on the receiving end of wealth and talent.
I think that's true. I think talent keeps moving here. I think wealth keeps moving here. There's a large population still here that median income is still not where it needs to be. So the fact that it's just for the rich, I think the rich are in the headlines, right? Because nobody wants to hear about the poor people being in the headlines, right? So the rich people are going to write their own headlines and promote their own headlines, and they're all living down at the beach, and that's so cool. That's cool. It's fine. But we do have a system here. When people are moving here, there's a big problem on the education side. You know, the number one question people ask when they're trying to move 400 or 500 people down here is, what's the school system like? First thought is, it's a nightmare. Okay, and my kids are all in New York. They're all in public schools. Okay, in New York, you move to a town where they have a great public school system, because if you live in that town, that's where your kids go to school. So it's pretty targeted. That's not what happens here. And the model here is really, for the rich folks, is put your kids into private. And the private schools right now are stacked. You cannot get in there if you try.
Even the money doesn't even buy a lot of times.
It does not.
I literally have had 3 friends in the last months, and I'm sure all of you guys have had or seen this situation with family members of people trying to get into specific schools, and there's absolutely no way because they're capped, and money doesn't make a difference in many situations, and they just can't get the kids into the schools.
I said, in the school system in its own, it's got all kinds of problems. The state school system. They're testing kids in the kindergarten. Okay, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, when my kid came home the other day, second grader goes, Dad, I have to work on something for my test tomorrow. I'm like, all right, give it to me. He goes, I need to know what hyperbole is. Hyperbole. I'm like, you're 8 years old. What are you talking about?
Well, good thing is that now there's ChatGPT, so you get
I mean, thank God he's not that proficient yet on that one. But so it's just the way that we kind of think about it. We make it hard. It's challenging, and we're pushing then people into that other system, and so it's a big vicious circle, And if Florida needs to fix that problem somehow in order to be able to accommodate all these people who want to come down here, because you can't build private schools either. I mean, go talk to the guys in New York who are trying to build a school down here. I'm trying to remember the name of the school. Yeah, and we spoke to the owners of the school a couple of years ago. We were trying to figure out how we could help. And they had no real rush in building up, and they bought the land in one of the public schools that down here. But there was no rush to break ground on it. So just kind of think about that supply and demand from that perspective.
Let me go through this. The Miami Association of Realtors recently reported that the number of active listings on the market were down 48% compared to pre-pandemic levels, while the median prices of the single-family homes increased 4.8% year over year to $545,000. In such a strong seller's market, should Miami agents like us be concerned about losing frustrated buyers to markets in Broward and Palm Beach County?
So the same things happened in Broward and Palm Beach counties too. Their median pricing their median pricing is up also, and their inventory levels are similarly down. So they're not going to get any reprieve by going to those counties.
I had a very good friend that sold his house in Miami. His theory was he was going to move to Delray, and he ended up buying the same house in Delray for $500,000 more. So I do have to agree that this is not just a Miami-Dade phenomenon. A lot of people are coming to Florida, and their concentration is in South Florida. But Palm Beach and Broward in many ways are favored for the schools, for the public schools, because the transfer cost of the public schools versus private schools, and then the cost of living in Miami is a big number. And so when you compare your housing cost and you say, or I could send 2 kids to private school for $50,000 each a year, you say, well, that's $100,000. I got a lot of flexibility to buy something.
Tell me about it. I think I think you guys are both right. I think if you're a Miami person, you're a South Florida Miami person, and if you're not, it's okay to move up. But I don't know how many people that are from down here want to live up there, and how many of the people from up there want to live down here.
I think there's more people here that want to live up there than up there.
Vice versa.
Here. I think when the people that are accustomed to the suburban living in Palm Beach County drive south, they hit a wall at Ives Dairy and they go, what is going on? and they don't get it.
I
you
know a couple
And the
of people that
from
do that
here,
daily.
We love the scale,
One of them
we
may
love
be
the
in
culture,
attendance.
we love the proximity to all of these things. And then we're like, oh, this cute little town in Fort Lauderdale, it's so quaint, right? I mean, we just,
Yes.
I think we're okay going into a more rural area. Like, I love to go up to Martin
I
County.
live 3 miles from the office. It takes me 25 minutes.
Right, right.
You need to get a Vespa. So,
Have you seen the drivers down here?
so, John, how do you feel about the broader market conditions given the recent events in the banking industry? And how do you feel that Florida's economy is being impacted in general? You want to talk a little bit
Yeah.
about what's going on
Right now?
in your
Yeah, listen, long weekend, obviously, for a lot of bankers, including me. Here's the news. As of yesterday, I had no voice, okay? So it's back. It's good. I woke up this morning, I'm like, thank God, right? Because I was thinking about this. But Sunday, Monday, I had no voice. I woke up, with nothing. But I think some of the issues that we've seen have been created, obviously, by the money supply. And the monetary policy has been so loose, it was inevitable. And then when the Fed comes behind it and raises rates 500 basis points in a very short window, it's impossible for banks' balance sheets not to be suffering. And then on top of that, what happens is you have folks in banks at times that are greedy. And what I mean by that is they start to take cheap money and look for yield over the long term, right? Because when money's cheap and the curve is inverted, it's hard to get, the yield that you want. And the curve inverted, more recently, but if you go back a year and so ago when guys were already putting money in, they were going out 10, 15, 20 years and investing to get a little bit of yield, thinking that's okay, but they have 3-year assets on the balance sheet. So you have a 3-year asset on the loan side, and then you have a security that you're investing at 15 or 20 years. That's a massive imbalance on the debt versus the asset. So I think that's Silicon Valley, okay? That's what kind of did those guys in. And they also had some very poor decisions along the way. So I think we should not reward their bailout on the equity side. Those equity holders need to get wiped out. I think on the deposit side, you need to have confidence in the monetary system in the United States. So the government stepped in. I think they should have done it sooner. I think it should have done the first thing on Friday because we almost lost 3 other banks. And it doesn't mean that we won't. I mean, you got 3 other ones still out there. Who knows what happens because the things are moving around all the time now.
including First Republic?
First Republic, PacWest, Western Alliance, all guys that had similar models. Okay.
Any bank who's not part of the top 4, I think that people were in general were feeling a little.
Of course, I think it's
insecure about
normal
what's
to
going
feel
on,
jitters.
right?
We talked to our clients called us, but it was more about how could we help them secure their funds that they felt uncomfortable with where they were. And I would say, I think we opened up, over 200 accounts in 2 days, even over the weekend, to give you a sense,
In
right?
$250,000 increments to show their confidence in you.
Well, but even that. Listen, here's the thing: some guys didn't even blink, and they might have had millions of dollars with us. But because they know the bank and they know how we built our model, we know we are, I'll call it boring, but a commercial real estate, driven residential mortgage, high net worth client model. It's not. We're not going after, venture money. We don't do no cash flow businesses. That's not our model, right? So, customers were not worried about us; they were worried about themselves. And our first priority was to figure out how to help them. Okay, and there was a CEO. I'll give you an example. There was a CEO of a vendor of ours that I knew had money at one of the 3 banks from conversations with them. And I called him on Friday morning and I said, hey, let me know if I can be helpful. Okay, I know you guys use them as a bank. Let me know if I can be helpful. And he said to me, I'll let you know. Come Sunday mid-morning, I get a call from him. He goes, I'm going to have to take you up on that offer. Right? I'm going to need you to open up bank accounts because I have to make payroll on Tuesday. So we opened up 4 accounts from them, had the money transferred over. The money didn't hit from their bank, didn't come on time before close. So in order for them to make payroll, now I know the CEO, we stepped in and we did an NSF on them for almost $2 million to cover their payroll. Now the good news was the money showed up 5 minutes later, but we had their financials and I felt super comfortable, right? But we did that. That's what we do for the client base, right?
That's why you lost your voice, because you were on the phone screaming at him. Listen, man, you gotta get.
Where's your money?
5 minutes has gone by.
Where's that money?
So
That's what we do. But that's the craziness in the market right now. But I think you have to take care of your clients. And I don't care what business you're in. If you're in your business or in the banking business, if you have that mindset, that's how you end up, increasing your client base.
So we have a great amazing group of brokers here, and I'm sure that you guys have some questions or some comments or some thoughts about some of the stuff that you've heard here. Anybody want to raise your hand so I could give you the mic and ask a question or make a comment? Anyone? Really? Okay. Nobody has a question or a comment. No one? You're all cold. Do you want some soup? You want a hug, Penny? You want to come here for a hug?
Right here.
You want to bring it in? We got a question? Oh, there we go. She has a comment. I love it. Let's go.
All right, so I was listening to you saying about the wealth and the wealth that has to sell up north and then they have to buy here. The people that I deal with, which are for the most part the entrepreneurs, very high net worth individuals, they don't have to sell anywhere, and we know this as you know, top brokers in Miami. They don't have to sell. They'll sell when they're good and ready. If they're not ready to do it now, the only thing they're doing, in my experience, is they're holding on to whatever it is and then just switching to their homestead here. So they're keeping the property wherever it is. They may rent it. They may just leave their housekeepers living in there to maintain it. But that's it. What they're doing here is they're putting their foothold in Miami, and we've seen it. We've seen it, you know, of course, all of us have seen it in a great way. So I have to disagree with your comment, but thank you so much.
That's quite all right. And I will say this, they have to sell something. Unless they're sitting on $5 million in cash in a bank, which is, I guess, possible.
But the truth of the matter is
selling a stock, a bond, a house, something.
But the truth of the matter is that many of the people who are buying here, it's not one for the other. It's their third or fourth or fifth house. So in many situations, that really doesn't really matter. But in others, it does. Anybody else have a comment? I love it. Let's go.
Really, I just have a comment. I'm wondering if everybody else is having the same issues as I am with insurance, and if you guys are running across that. The quotes that my buyers are getting right now are insane. I mean, in Ponce Davis, I closed on a house today for $7 million, and their quote was $90,000 a year. It's not even in a flood zone.
Not even in a flood zone. I mean, it's a serious $90,000 a year for the insurance, and not even in a flood zone.
I've heard the insurance numbers are doubling, and that's likely to continue for the balance of the year, which, you know, obviously is going to have an impact as well on pricing, right? Because people are going to factor that in. As those renewals come up and those insurance rolls again, our problem is our insurance regime in Florida. We don't have a strong enough backstop. We're not in a position for that the state is ready to step in and backstop. And the companies we just don't have enough solvent insurance companies in Florida.
But to that comment, a lot of people are realizing that the insurance number is not what they thought after they're already hard on the deal. So, but you know, it is what it is for some of them. They, you know, they're already on the horse and they move forward.
Yeah, I'll say we were part of we were up north at a conference on the insurance side, and there was a staggering number thrown out there. A lot of it has to do with lawsuits that are just piling up in the state, and you know, and they said, hey, guess what percentage of a settlement, you know, goes to, you know, the person filing the lawsuit versus the attorney, and the attorneys are collecting some 90%. 90%.
That's ridiculous.
And 10% is going right to the person getting awarded, and that's creating a problem. The system is just kind of rigged against against the homeowner, and rates will continue to go up, and that's making it more unaffordable, because between increase in interest rates and between the rising of insurance, it's making it more difficult to deal with that.
Which happens on the market as well.
I don't want to demonize the lawyers, but I want to say this. Everybody in the insurance industry that I know says that the assignment of benefits is the problem. The fact that the adjusters can go in and say to you, listen, you give me the right to pursue your claim, I'll pay you $80,000 and I'll get you a new roof. And you say, yeah, why not? That's a given. And then they go and they figure out how to make that roof cost $150,000 or $180,000. And you do that again and again and again. The assignment of benefits in Florida is the problem. Now, I'm all for public adjusting, but the bottom line is that if every time somebody gets a puncture in their roof, they're going to buy a new $50,000 roof, then that's the cost of insurance. That's where we are. So we have to fix that. And if we fix that, the cost of insurance will come down. If we can lobby the state to backstop our insurance at a reasonable rate, that'll come down. But let's be honest, Hurricane Ian didn't help, right? And by the way,
thank God it didn't come through Miami.
But these insurance markets are also nationwide. There are insurers that are fighting wildfires on the West Coast, hurricanes on the East Coast. I mean, we've had a lot of loss.
So I feel people are hungry and cold. Any last questions? So we cut it? Anybody? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much for being here. Wait, we got a picture or something? Okay, perfect. Thanks, guys. Bon appetit.